Hi, it's Lee from colouringqueen.net and I'm back with Lulu Mayo Christmas colouring page, Colour and Chat. So it's been a little while since you've seen this one. I think it's maybe about a week. It did take a bit longer to finish than what I thought, and I did colour some off screen, but we've had quite a lot going on, so I haven't actually had time to colour at all with so much stuff going on. And I apologise for the background noise. That's Charlie and Millie, and they're sort of playing a little bit, so you might hear some running around and whatnot. So I coloured most of the leaves off screen, and throughout this video I colour a bit off screen and a bit on screen. So I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. We're still a little bit affected by the bushfires here with smoke haze and whatnot, which makes it pretty uncomfortable when you've got asthma. So, I have been trying not to go outside, but it just doesn't seem to happen that, I can just stay inside because we've got so much to do before Christmas and before David's mum and his brother come to stay. But we've got to do a whole sort of like granny flat downstairs, put in a pool, do landscaping, finish painting inside, finish painting outside, and do all the things that we've put off or didn't have money for. So anyway, so quite a lot going on there. And I've been busy. You might notice I've got a great big band-aid on my thumb, and that's because I was jackhammering out the pool. And let me tell you, that is not a fun job, especially when it is like 35 degrees. So for a while I had it like a beach umbrella over me in the pool, jackhammering out all this rubble. And I like the jackhammer, don't get me wrong, but even after we finished, I'm still dreaming about it and still feeling like maybe there was a different technique I could have used. And I'm still having jackhammer dreams of, going through, jacking up all of this pool. But, never again, I tell you. Not only is it all the jackhammering of the pool, but there's all the bags of pool that you've got to take out of the pool and lift out and take in the wheelbarrow and get it out of there. So I must have put 40 bags of rubble together and took them out to the dumping ground out the front before we get a rubbish skip. So my back is just killing me. It's like I've got a really sore back from bending over and holding the jackhammer against my thigh, so I've got this whopping yellow bruise all down my thigh. And I think the gloves that I was wearing, I don't know, they either rubbed on my thumb or it was the heat from the jackhammer, but this awful meaty blister on my thumb, which is why I've got the band-aids on it. And I was doing really well, and I put the jackhammer aside one day, and because this took days and days to do, because mainly it's hot and also it's really backbreaking to jackhammer out a pool. It really is hard work. And yeah, we'd put the jackhammer aside one day, and anyway, David bumped it and it fell on me, and I got the blade sort of all along my foot, so that was pretty sore. Luckily I didn't need stitches or anything. It was just like taking the skin off it where it hit the blade, hit my foot. So luckily I didn't need to go to hospital or anything like that. So only one injury, which is good. I think last week we had the excavator in, and I think that might have been the last time, or the last thing I talked about was we decided to move these palm trees, like man versus palm tree and man versus pool this week. And geez, the excavator made such a mess. It's just unbelievable. He did a great job. He moved out the tree because you've got to pay them like a minimum of 4 hours. He moved out the first palm tree, which was like 5 metres high, and we were moving it 2 metres across away from the pool. And he moved that out within, half an hour. And I thought, geez, we won't even use up the 4 hours. So I was thinking, this is great. And I could get him to do a few more little odd jobs for me. And of course, as soon as he put the tree into the hole, David watered it in, which, handy hint, if you're moving a tree, don't water it in until it's perfectly secure, because the whole thing fell down. There's this 5 metre high palm tree that you couldn't lift, and it fell on the excavator, and the guy couldn't get out of the excavator. So luckily David had taken the day off work, because if it was me on my own, I think I would have just chopped the tree up and, be done with it, because there wouldn't have been any way for me to physically do what David did. And what he did was get all these straps and sort of tie it up to the house, and then got the excavator to push it and lift this, big tree that's fallen over back up again. But so we learned our lesson on the second palm tree that he moved, not to water it before it was fully secured. And then, of course, as soon as you do that, there's thunderstorms, and so we had to race to, until they properly take root. You've got 2 5-6 metre trees that are just basically sitting in a hole. So we had to get all of these straps and sort of tie them up and put bars in and tie them into position so that they don't fall over. And also we had these really bad windstorms and thunderstorms the night that we moved them, of course. So I was terrified all night that these trees were going to fall over and fall over the fence, or that we just wouldn't be able to get them out. But it was really good, because we ended up having 8 hours with the excavator, so twice as much, because this first drama with the palm tree ended up taking hours just to get it righted again. It was really frustrating, because I was thinking that we wouldn't actually use up all the time and it'd be cheaper. I'm always thinking about the budget, because I'm in charge of paying the bills, so I'm always thinking about the money. But so we got the trees out, which is good, and they're all strapped up and secure, which is great. And I'm glad that we went to that hassle of moving them, because otherwise with the pool it would have been a bit difficult. And so we did all of that, and we got the excavator to dig out some trenches for us, and we'd already done that, but he did such a better job of it, and David was going to do that by hand, so it's good that they did it and made it a lot easier. And I still had some soil that I'd had delivered from my garden, so I got him to move it over closer to where my planter boxes are, so I don't have to keep wheelbarrowing it over there, because I'm getting a bit tired of the wheelbarrow at the moment. I'm feeling very old and achy from that pool jackhammering, and I don't think I'll ever do that for a job. So it was good, getting the excavator. I can see why people would use them, and first time that we've ever had to use one. We've had a bobcat before, but never an excavator, so it was definitely worth it. And then I think we spent all weekend just getting this pool done, and all through the week, every morning I've been getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and going down there and just bagging up all the pool rubble, because it's nice and cool at that time of morning, and shoveling that stuff up. I'm only 5'2". I'm only fairy smurf size, so it's heavy, and lifting all of those things up, it's very heavy, especially when you're only a tiny toddler, fairy sized, as I like to call it. And so thankfully that is all over, because I really couldn't do that day in, day out. And the other things that we've been doing, the other day, we've got bushfires in Australia, as most people know. Most of New South Wales and Queensland, and today Victoria, so all along the east coast of Australia, is affected by bushfires in some way or another. Not us directly here in Brisbane, but we are getting a lot of the fire and smoke from fires further north than us. So for my asthma. It's just been shocking. But poor David, the other day, he had to get up at 1 a.m. in the morning after doing all of this work with moving these trees and the pool and everything. We both did the pool jackhammering, but, you know, he did a lot more of the physical work than I did. And he had to get up at 1 o'clock in the morning and drive a fully loaded truck down to New South Wales, right in the bushfire zone, for work. And I really did not want him to go. I was so stressed out about it because several of the roads have been closed. He was going to a small, you know, town that they just had a very small job on for. And the only other way out of this town is a road through the mountain ranges, which mountains are full of trees which burn, and there were bushfires everywhere. Anyway, I wanted to go with him because it would be his work estimated to take 12 hours for him to go down there, do the job that he's meant to do, and because of the road closures and the bushfires, get back to home again. But he didn't want me to go with him because I'd be just sitting there bored, you know, in this like small town, really small town, for, you know, hours while he did his work. And I'm kind of glad that I didn't go with him because he said as soon as he got sort of an hour out of Brisbane, the smoke was so bad all the way down that he found it uncomfortable, and he doesn't have asthma, so he probably would have had to just, you know, drop me off and I'd have to find my own way back home because it would have just been really unpleasant for me. But I really wanted to go because he's got sleep apnea, and going on a 12-hour drive on, you know, in a truck, you know, might send him to sleep and he might have an accident, and also the bushfires, and, you know, you always feel like people are safer if you're actually with them. So anyway, he talked me out of going, and I'm kind of glad because the smoke haze was so bad. And, like, I'm finding it uncomfortable here, but what he went through is just even worse. But the poor bugger, I mean, he was only a couple of hours into it, and a truck flicked a stone up and broke his windscreen, and then he had to drive through all the smoke haze, and he gets to this job at 6 o'clock in the morning in New South Wales, which they're on daylight saving time, whereas we don't have it here in Brisbane. And the work that was meant to be done hadn't been signed off or certified, so they weren't able to do it. And they had to wait until the engineering firm that was doing the sign-off opened at 9 o'clock. So he basically had to wait like 3 or 4 hours to get the authority to do the work. Then he had to do the work, and then he had to drive back to Brisbane, drop the truck off, and then drive home. So he was gone for 19 hours, and the poor guy, you know, he was just exhausted by the time he got home. Felt so sorry for him having to do that huge drive, especially in through bushfires. And the worst of it is like when you're waiting around for something to happen and you're just sitting there and there's nothing to do and you're just stuck. But so hopefully he never has to do that again because I would be freaking out. But where he works, they said because he was gone for like the 19 hours, that's obviously more than an 8-hour day. And so they gave him the next day off, so he was able to stay here and get a few more things done. And they sort of rang him up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, having expected him to, you know, have slept just all through the night and, you know, had a big sleep. And you know, he gets up at 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, so I don't know what they were thinking. They were thinking, oh, must need a big nap or something after the 19 hours, but anyway, it was nice of them to give him an extra day off for that. That was very kind, and to check on him and see if he was okay. He was actually saying that they were ringing him all the way on the drive back, which was kind of inconvenient because he had to keep pulling over to take the call, but just to check on him and to see if he was okay and if he'd eaten and things like that. So that's nice when your boss actually is worried about you and genuinely concerned about you, you know. Because he used to work for the same company in Sydney, but it was a lot bigger, and you were lucky if the boss knew your name. You know, he knew David's name because he'd been there for 20 years and he'd actually done some personal work for him and all the rest of it. But, you know, most of the people that worked there, the boss wouldn't have known their name at all. So it's nice that, you know, when small firms are appreciative of you. And speaking of jobs, I went for a job interview the other day, and as most of you know, I've been trying to find a job, and to be honest, I'm kind of bored with looking at the moment because there's just nothing around that I'm qualified for. Every job I've applied for is like a compromise on my qualifications, so they're not an ideal fit. And so I was talking to a few neighbours and to a few people in the area about, you know, how disappointed I am that I haven't got a job, and they all said the same, that I have to actually degrade my resume and take my qualifications off the resume in order to not get the overqualified attitude that I've been getting in jobs. So one girl that lives behind me, she said she was looking for 12 months and she went to one of those places that help you find employment, and the first thing they did was take her qualifications off her resume, because in this area they're just not looking for people that are, you know, super qualified. So I'm going to do that, and it kind of breaks my heart, but you know, you spend all your life trying to get all these qualifications only to take them off, so it's pretty funny. But anyway, I went for this job the other day and I really was not interested in the job. I really don't like it. It's not an area. I'm certainly qualified to do it, but I haven't really done it before, and it's kind of a lot, you know, less complex than what I'm used to. Anyway, I couldn't care less about this job, whether I got it or whether I get offered it or not. And the employers got a really bad reputation in the area, but they're one of the biggest employers. And they'd actually had a report that was commissioned into, you know, all the problems that they have with staff turnover and staff happiness, etc. And it's like a 50-page report or whatever. So I read that and read all the reviews on what an awful employer they were. And you know, when you're not really interested in a job, so I don't know how I'm going to go with this job interview, whether I'll actually get a call back. But one of the questions I asked them was what they were going to do about their poor satisfaction based on these reports that have been commissioned. And they were so stunned that I'd read the reports and could quote the figures and whatnot. 46% staff dissatisfaction, and, you know, 43% said that they would never work there again. That they really didn't know what to do. So you know how most interviews, they sort of, you get stuck answering the question, because I always get stuck on when people ask you about special talents that you might have or great things that you've done, because I don't know, I'm not very good at selling myself. I'm not at all good at that, and yeah, I feel very uncomfortable, you know, saying things like that. So for once the tide was turned, and they were absolutely flummoxed that someone had read their independent report and researched it, and they were stuck for a change, which was nice, better than me being stuck. But I doubt that I will be offered the job, you know, seeing I was already a little bit cheeky, but you know, when you just don't care whether you get it or not, and that's the way I felt about it. It was like, I've worked at so many unpleasant places, and I just wanted to see what they would say and how they would handle it, which was funny. And so, of course, they did the usual, you're so, overqualified for this position, so why would you possibly want it? And, the money is like maybe it's less than half of what I used to earn. But around here there's just nothing, and if you go into the CBD, it takes so long on public transport to get there from where we're living, and there's also the pollution factor, which really affects my asthma, and that's why I want to work locally, so that I don't, have to battle the commute and the pollution and all of the rest of it. So I did tell them I wanted to get home at 4:30 so that I could have margaritas by the pool and play with my blow-up swan in the pool. So I don't know whether they thought that was worth the answer or not, but it's the total truth, because that's all I want to do is just get home to the pool and colour in, play with my swan, and just float around and maybe have a margarita once every week or something like that. So we'll see how they go for brutal honesty in their interviews, but I don't expect a call back, and I'm not at all bothered. It's nothing like a job that I would really like, and yeah, so we'll see. We'll see. Something hopefully will turn up soon. At the moment, I'm wishing I'd, done every other qualification rather than the one that I did. So, but we'll see. Hopefully, maybe in the new year, something will turn up that's suitable for me. But it's made me feel a lot better talking to people in the local area, especially women, because this is mainly a tradie area. So David's a tradie, and they get work really quickly with just a phone call, whereas the women in this area seem to spend about 12 months trying to find a job, and a few of them that I've spoken to have actually said they've taken their qualifications off the resume so that they can find a job. So it's a funny situation. I'm not really used to it. So we'll see how we go next year, and if it's any different. It's getting like the end of November now, so it's kind of getting a bit too late to worry about getting a job. I think anyway, I've got other things to do. It's going to take me away from my colouring time. And I mean, we're surviving just on the one wage, so it's certainly no room in that one wage for any extras or anything like that, but at least we're surviving, so it's better than nothing. And what else have we been doing? The moment, it's just been so warm, and when you're doing outside work on the house or just even in my garden, it's just so hot. I find if I don't get things done like from 5 a.m. in the morning before it gets super hot, then I'm just not going to get it done that day, because I don't cope with the heat. I don't know why I agreed to move here. So what else has been happening? I'm trying to think what I've done all week, and as usual I can't remember what I did yesterday, let alone all week. I have been working on a few things for my website, but I don't want to talk about it. So I've been working on some new changes to the Colouring Queen sort of setup and community. I'm not sure if I'll implement those or not. We'll see how we go. Mainly I've been just trying to get things done around the house before David's mum and his brother come. And it's really weird because he's just like, well, if it's not ready, they can go stay at a motel. But I really want things nice for them, and I want them to enjoy staying here and come back. So I'm the one that's running around trying to get all these things done and organised. And David's just like, oh, well, they can stay at a motel if it's not finished. So we'll see how we go. But today and yesterday I've had the plumbers and the electricians in doing all the fancy stuff for the pool, which the whole backyard is such a mess. And this morning I was in the trenches literally putting electrical tape as a warning in the trenches, that if you're digging down you see this great big warning tape that there's electrical wiring down there. And yeah, and then the plumber came and I helped him put his big long pipes in, and then the pool guys came and they did this huge acid wash on the pool, on the pebblecreting and the 30-year-old tiles. I mean, it does look a lot cleaner and it is a lot nicer, but geez, I wish we had the money to get the tiles and the yucky pebblecrete replaced, because it really is a bit 70s daggy. But I'm thinking I might just embrace the 70s look, like, because in the house, because it's a 70s style house, I've got all Scandi furniture, which goes well with the 70s, all the replica Eames stuff and that sort of mid-century modern design goes quite well Scandi with 70s houses, I think. So I'm thinking, rather than keep trying to work against this pool because we couldn't replace those tiles and the coping around it, that I'm going to embrace the 70s and get some sort of retro furniture for outside that'll sort of tie the look of the pool with the rest of the house. So maybe something modern but with that sort of 70s shape to it, and it might make me like these old tiles and whatnot. But the pool guy did say that they'll look great and whatnot, but I think his idea of great and mine are two different things, because they still look like daggy 70s tiles to me, but cleaner. But everyone keeps telling me once the water's in that I won't notice what the coping or the tiles look like, so I'm hoping that's true. So yeah, so the pool, the electricians and the plumbers have been here. And Millie, of course, tried to escape. Luckily, that pool guy is really good at catching cats. I don't know, that funny cat, she sits on the couch all day and then the front door opens and she's off, and she gets to the bottom of the stairs and she's like, oh, I don't know why I came down here. But she's a funny little thing. So, and yeah, today they did the acid wash on the pool. So they clean it all with hydraulic acid, and yeah, it is a lot cleaner. And tomorrow they spray the new resurface stuff in it, and on Saturday we can put the hose or get a water truck to deliver the water for it. And yeah, and then I think by Monday or something we can get in it and I can put my swan in, and you won't hear from me after Monday because I'll be floating in that pool. Only joking. I'll come out at night. And it's got a little spa thing, but we're not getting a heated spa. But the plumber has nicely put in the pipes for it should we change our mind. But I've been trying to get a bubbler thing today so that it can make little bubbles and whatnot. And so yesterday I had the plasterer come in and plaster up or put sheets on the downstairs bathroom, so in case David's mum wants to stay sort of separate from us, we've got a downstairs, and what I'm doing is putting a kitchenette in there and a small bathroom, but we've got to fix up all the concrete slab and put coverings on, and I've got to make up all these flat pack kitchen cupboards. I don't know why I buy these, probably because they're cheap, but they take ages to put together. And yeah, we've got the little bathroom going in. So I had the plasterer in yesterday, a young kid, because I couldn't lift up the sheets by myself. And David, when he put the concrete slab in it the other night for the little bathroom, he hurt his shoulder and he was in so much pain. I thought that he had torn his rotor cuff. He did that about 10 years ago, and he ended up having surgery, and it cost us $10,000, but that wasn't the worst of it. The worst of it was he was off work for a year and a half, which back then, it was okay because I was in a really well-paid job, and we were able to survive on my pay, but it was really hard on him, and he had to have physio and all the rest of it. And he was in so much pain, I thought, and it was the same shoulder. I thought he's either torn it because it can be susceptible to another injury, or he's done something. But so I thought, rather than get him to put those up, I'll get someone in. So I got someone in, and he seemed like a nice kid, but he put a nail in our hot water hose, and we basically spent all night moving stuff because there was just water everywhere. It was leaking out through all the framework of the walls, and he couldn't care less. He was just like, oh, well, you can fix that, And so obviously I didn't want him back to do any other work. And yeah, so we spent all night moving all the wet things so that the walls could dry out. And then we had to rush to the hardware store to try and find a temporary fix before my plumber could get there. And because it was hot water pipe that he put the nail through, so there was all this hot water going over the floor. And yeah, and so then we spent hours, trying to fix that, as well as do other stuff that the plumbers and the pool people wanted for today. So it's been a really exhausting last week just to try and get this pool and whatnot done. So I'm the new plasterer now, so I've plastered walls before, but not square set ceilings. So luckily there's YouTube, so I looked it up, spent 5 minutes on it, and it was actually a lot easier than I thought. The only problem is I can barely walk now, getting up and down the ladder all the time. I've got dodgy knees from a car accident, and I was meant to have surgery on them, but I'm not too keen on, having surgery. And yeah, so now today I'm like crippled, can barely walk, my knees are that sore, and I'm just aching all over from getting up and down the ladder all day. And when I was doing the ceiling, of course, it's kind of hard to plaster a ceiling, so I did end up with quite a lot all over me. And, at one stage it was all in my eye and my face. It's messy. There must be some tip to doing that that I didn't see on the 5-minute YouTube video. But luckily, whatever you want to learn, there always seems to be something on YouTube that you can look at and watch. And at least I got the room plastered and in time for the waterproofer to come. And so this week we're starting a bathroom, we're getting the pool done, and then over the weekend we've got to put the pool fence back up and, hopefully tidy up the garden a bit. It looks like it's been trampled to death. And then by Monday they put the mineral salts, etc., in the pool. So you'd think with all the aching that I'm in right now would be the time that you would want to get in the pool and enjoy the mineral salts, but unfortunately that won't be until next week. Apparently it's like having a Radox bath, like you feel all muscle relaxed and everything, so it's different from the normal chlorine. So at least that's something to look forward to, I guess. But yeah, the build-up of plaster and whatnot, I've been coughing and coughing because the asthma and all that little plaster dust, because you've got to sand it as well. So my hands are all sore, and I think I'm definitely having the weekend off, and I'm just going to colour in and relax, and I'm going to put down my power tools for the week. I'm sore and I've got blisters, and so hopefully I can do that over the weekend. And I do want to choose a picture for my colour with me. I've got quite a lot of artwork here that I've either created or I've hired people to create, so I'm going to quickly go through that and find something for my colour with me this week. So I'll have to get my skates on and start doing that. And some people were asking about Millie. She's been sitting a lot in the lounge room, probably because that's where the air conditioner is. And if you have watched the weather, you'll know that Australia is quite hot at the moment. So because she's fluffy, I think she likes just sitting, in the lounge room where it's nice and air conditioned. I don't have air conditioning in the colouring cave. I've got a fan, so I think she likes the aircon better. So she hasn't been joining the videos because I think she just wants to, keep cool and relax. Whereas Charlie is always here. He's never far from my side. But you just can't see him on film because he's at my feet being a cute little dog that loves his mummy. And I think I've developed a bit of a cold as well, probably from sweating so much. I think I must have sweated out 1 kilo this week, so it'd be good weight loss if I could, lose 1 kilo just by plastering and jackhammering and rendering walls and stuff like that. But unfortunately I haven't had time to spend much time with my plants this week. I did want to get some new seeds planted and everything else, but the whole garden is covered in like these half-metre trenches, so it's not a whole lot of fun walking around the garden because it's a bit of a death trap and everything is all over the place. So it's probably why I haven't done as much out there, and plus it's hot. I only like to do stuff between 5 a.m. and 8:30 in the morning outside because I get too hot and I don't like it. And then I come inside and just do whatever needs to be done in here, which seems to take all day. I still can't work out what I do all day. I will have to go and mow the lawn at some stage, but I don't think the neighbours will like it if I did that at 5 a.m. in the morning. I don't like to make noise until like 7 o'clock when most people around here have left for work. I don't like to make noise after 8 o'clock at night because most people have little kids and that's usually when they put them to bed, so try and organise everything around that. Millie's walking all over me again, all over my computer. I was going to do some more cooking and experiment with the barbecue because David was always the one that runs the barbecue, not me. And I thought I'd try and find some barbecue recipes, but we're on a total fire ban here and we can't even use the barbecue, so I've picked the wrong time to try and expand my culinary delights into barbecued food, so hopefully that total fire ban will be gone soon. I don't know if you guys have seen the news, but the poor little koalas in the bushfires is just horrendous. And this woman the other day, I just can't understand how brave she was. She heard, it's made national news everywhere, so I'm sure some of you may have seen it. But if you do see the video, I would suggest that you actually turn down the sound because it is quite distressing. So this poor little koala was, in the bushfire and had been badly burnt and was crying, and everything. And this woman took her shirt off and raced in and grabbed the koala. Now, koalas are heavy for one thing, so just to carry a koala, good on her. But they've also got really strong claws. And she raced in and she grabbed him, and where he was all burnt and singed, and wrapped him up in her shirt and poured water all over his burns and whatnot. But the fact that she would do that, just run into the fire, extremely brave. And the koala, they've named him Lewis. He's progressing well with his recovery in hospital, which is good, because we don't really have that many koalas left in Australia that we can start losing them willy-nilly, especially with most of their food supply being burnt in bushfires. So there's a lot of funds set up to help the koalas and save them. And where we live here, there's a lot of koala conservation zones, because they used to have a large koala population, and then with new development, the koalas obviously had to move elsewhere. No one gives them an eviction notice, the poor little buggers. And so they've, changed where they live. So they've set up a lot of conservation sort of stretches of land where the koalas can still live. So everywhere around here, there's all these signs on the road: watch out, koalas crossing, or beware of koalas. Now, we've been here a year and I still haven't seen a koala, so I don't know where they're all hiding. But they're certainly not hiding here. I'd love to see one. But apparently our neighbours were telling us we've got a leopard tree out the front. And Millie's walking all over me again, over the keyboard. We've got a leopard tree out the front, and when this place was first built back in the 70s, early 80s, there was a lot of new development in the area, because it'd basically gone from being all potato farms around here, or pineapple farms, and a lot of bush and stuff, to new estates and developments. And this koala had walked down the street, and it was sitting up in our leopard tree out the front, and they called Wires, which is the wildlife rescue place that will pick up wildlife that's injured or displaced. And he came and collected the koala. So I keep hoping that, maybe if one koala likes the tree out the front, we might get another one. Now, I've actually got some sort of little critter that's been eating all of my vegetables. Well, they haven't eaten all of them. They've eaten the strawberries and the cucumbers. And then I put netting on them and fixed that up so that they can't get in. But I'd like it if there was a koala that came in and ate the vegetables, but of course they don't eat that. It's probably a possum. I'm hoping it's a possum, because my other alternative is, because of the building materials and whatnot, that we might have a rat, and I'd really prefer only to keep rats in my colouring books and not in my vegetable patch. So I'm hoping for a possum. And Millie's sitting on the keyboard, so if you hear any noise, that's Millie getting a back massage from a tummy massage from the keyboard. So what is everyone else colouring today? Is anyone else going to colour a Christmas page or one from Lulu? No, I wanted to do some drawing, and I was all fired up to do Joanna's Inky Wonderlands and to draw some things from that. And then by the time I got the book and everything else that's been going on, I haven't even started on the first picture. So much for that idea of getting all involved and getting practicing. And I even had a little schedule set up on a sticky note of what I would do each day, and one of the things was practice drawing for an hour, because I figure if you practice anything often enough, that you should be able to do a halfway decent drawing, but I still haven't even got to it. I'm so far behind. I'm just like a government department, perpetually behind on everything. And not just on colouring related things, in my own life as well. Like, my to-do list always seems to be longer than what the day can possibly hold, and I never seem to get through the whole list. It just never happens, and I'm always transferring it to another page. But I do use the Bethlehem Steel method of listing out your top 5 or top 3 priorities of the day, and then just ticking them off as you do them, and then you add another 3. That's meant to really help with productivity. But unfortunately, it just never helps me get through the list. And David says it's because I put too much on it in the first place. But I just have these dreams that I might be Superwoman, but the reality is not. But I'm going to leave it here. As you can see, I did a lot of work off camera. I didn't want to bore you with my colouring. So the background, I used 3 shades of blue, which is just basically the lightest blues in Prismacolor. And then I used my gold glitter pen to go over, from Stedler, to go over the Joy name on the page. Now I do need to probably blend this out a little bit more, and I've been using a Derwent blender for that off camera, and it's because I used just cheap photocopy paper, and so some of the tooth of the page is still going in. Now, a lovely subscriber recommended that I use some silver glitter on the page when I was finished. And do you know what? When I went to go and get my glitters, I actually don't have silver. So that confused me. So I was going to use just Stardust stickles. But for the life of me, I couldn't work out where I would put them. So when in doubt, leave it out. So off camera, I might try and be brave and try and think of some place where to put the stickles. But at the moment, I'm not really sure. I've got no idea. So, yeah, and I'll try and get some silver glitter. That's very remiss of me not having silver glitter. And try and work out where to put them. Or if anyone else has got another suggestion. I don't actually have many glitter glues at all, looking at my little basket of them. Yeah, anyway, that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed this colouring page from Lulu Mayo called Joy, and until next time, happy colouring.